Raise your hand if you've ever been to a party where there was alcohol involved. Raise your hand if you have a social media account like Facebook or Twitter. Raise your hand if you know anyone else who has a social media account. Raise your hand if you've ever bought anything on Amazon. Raise your hand if you've listed anything to sell on eBay or Craigslist. If you raised your hand in response to any of these questions, then you have an online persona, whether you realize it or not. That's because others can easily see things about you online, like your Amazon wish lists and your purchase histories. And even if you don't have a Facebook profile, you might be prominently featured in someone else's profile as we speak. Welcome to the third video in our three-part series on how to create a professional online identity entitled Online Persona: Best Practices. For each of the reasons just mentioned and more, this video will discuss how to start building a positive online persona today. I say today because the first rule to building a professional online identity is to be proactive. If you know you've made one or more of the mistakes discussed in video 2 of this series, then start cleaning up your Facebook profile or Twitter feed immediately. Remove negative or inappropriate status updates and make unprofessional photo albums private, or better yet, remove them from the internet altogether. If you don't think you've made any of the mistakes, then you might actually be at even greater risk because you might not realize what's out there about you or how you appear in an online search to potential employers. For that reason, Google yourself. Then look beyond the first page or two of results, keeping in mind that serious employers will do the same. If you still don't find anything on yourself, try using different search terms. Combine your name, for instance, with the name of your school or employer or hometown. Of course, if there's anything in particular you're worried about showing up online, try to find it. It's best to know now if it's out there than to avoid learning the truth. You can also have a friend search for you online. Others are often able to find things we aren't. If at any point in any of this there's something that appears less than flattering, remove it. After all, no persona is better than a negative persona. By that, I just mean it's better to not show up online at all than to show up in a negative way. Besides, no employer will hold the lack of an online presence against you unless you're interviewing for a social media job or something that requires you to be well connected, of course. So once you've been proactive by cleaning up your current social media accounts and Googling yourself and making sure there's nothing negative about you online, now it's time to start creating the positive persona that you do want out there, a professional one. Here are 6 ideas for doing just that, and I've attempted to list them from the simplest to the most difficult. First, use correct grammar and spelling in all of your posts and social comments. You don't want to come across to others as careless or uneducated. Again, this is probably the easiest thing to do if you're just mindful of its importance. Next, share industry-related links and news on your Twitter or Facebook profile. If you're pursuing a job in technology, for instance, you can share the latest tech-related news. If you're an English or literature professional, you can share interviews by your favorite authors or reviews of the latest works. Instead of posting those pictures we mentioned in the last video of you at a party or images of you at the beach after calling in sick, consider posting images of you volunteering or participating in service opportunities. There's no need to be opportunistic about it, but there's also no need to hide the fact that you volunteer or are active in the local community. Number 4, work to build professional relationships online by befriending colleagues and experts in your field, and by sharing in their successes. This is another one that's relatively easy, and it creates synergy with each of the other suggestions, making your use of correct grammar and your sharing of industry links and your professional photos all the more important. Next, consider creating a LinkedIn account. LinkedIn is a free service that's easy to find and use, and it's one of the best ways to collect all of your professional experience and resume type content in one online location. If you're not currently linked in, you're simply missing out on an easy opportunity to build a professional online persona. Finally, consider creating your own personal website. If you're a web designer, you might be able to create your own site. If you have the financial means, you can also hire someone else to create a rather simple website for you for around a few $100s. If each of these options seem too daunting, too expensive, or too complicated, however, there's a simpler solution. Consider buying the URL for your name, which can typically be done for around $10, then simply link it to something like that LinkedIn account you just created. This way, when people do one of those Google searches for your name, you can control what comes up first in their search. So that brings us to the end of video 3 and the end of our series on creating a professional online persona. We discussed some common mistakes in video 2. In this one we talk about the need to be proactive as well as several specific ways to do so, from Googling yourself with different search terms to building professional online relationships to linking your LinkedIn account to your newly acquired URL. Feel free to rewatch the videos as many times as you want, to share them with others, including your students, and to steal as many of the ideas as you want. Thanks for listening, and good luck!